Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for Wildcard by Marie Lu. Wildcard is the sequel and finale to I believe it's called Warcross duology. Warcross came out last year and it was essentially about this near futuristic society that had highly developed VR, and one of the biggest attractions to VR was this game called Warcross. And our main character, Amika Chen, is a bounty hunter who's really been struggling. A couple things happen and she is actually given the opportunity to work during the Warcross games, and our story kind of takes off from there. I actually did a review for Warcross probably over a year ago. I rewatched it recently to prepare for this review, and I agree with most of what I said back then. It was one of my first reviews, and I still was a little bit new to reviewing, but I think I did an okay job. Oh, I also want to apologize for the glare that's going on. This is a library copy, and it's really reflecting against my light, but what can you do? The main things that I remember about Warcross and my feelings on them was that although it was a little lacking in a couple places, I really liked the plot and the action of the story, and I enjoyed our characters, especially our side characters. And my biggest thought going into Wildcard was that it had the potential to be a very kick-ass and great finale. Unfortunately, I don't think we really got that. I think there were so many elements in this story that I found really disappointing, and I'm going to tell you why. So in terms of world building, Marie Lu doesn't really do too much in the sequel. Nothing really was expanded upon here, however, but it wasn't a huge deal to me because it's a sequel. She did a lot of the groundwork before. I just would have liked actually a little bit of a refresher as to how some of the things worked in the VR, because it had been a year since I read it and I was a little bit rusty, but that was on me, so it's not a huge deal. I think we could have expanded it the littlest bit more. Now, the characters, unfortunately, was one of the most disappointing parts of this story. This story is told in first-person perspective through Amika, and I remember really liking her and how determined she was in the first book. However, in this, she had very little personality. She kind of just went through the motions of the story, but never seemed to be really affected by anything other than one instance that I can think of. Frankly, all of our characters seemed very robotic and just really flat. I was also pretty bummed that we didn't get to see a lot of our side characters, and that was one part of Warcross that I loved so much. They do still love each other and they're still really want to help one another. I wanted to see so much more of them, and I was really disappointed in the lack of our side characters. Another thing I noticed was that there was no character development at all, really. There was absolutely no arcs or any sort of growth from any of our characters, and there's one who I'm not going to mention here because that would kind of be a spoiler, that I expected to grow a lot. Ugh, this is difficult because I don't want to spoil anything. This is a sequel. But yeah, there was no development across the board. I can't think of any instance of any sort of character growth from the first to the second. We do get a couple new characters introduced into this one, and unfortunately there's only really one new character that I liked. She was an assassin, and her perspective that was brought into this story I thought was very interesting. I liked the position that she was in and how difficult it was and how decision making was for her. I really liked her perspective, but any of the other new characters that were brought in, I found to be pretty bland. And now to the plot, which was a significant disappointment. Right off the bat, I thought this was terribly paced. This has a literal ticking clock situation. There is like maybe 7 days that Amika and her friends have to get the job done. Amika's just kind of listless, and she goes from person to person slowly, and just there's no real urgency, which is incredibly strange to me. I read this within the matter of like 3-4 days and was really intrigued as what was going on and to finally get some answers. But when everything was answered, I didn't love the shift in the plot and the direction. I was really looking forward to the conflict that was set up in Warcross. However, I just found that it kind of got sidestepped in here to a new conflict that is significantly less interesting to me. And when it got to the actual climax of the story, it was just really long and actually kind of boring. This scenario that was set up to be our big moment, I feel like I've seen quite a few times before in TV, in books, and I've seen it done better. In terms of Marie Lu's writing, I enjoyed it enough. It didn't really make a huge impression on me. I found it to be a little dialogue heavy, which also kind of bogs down our story. But when she was describing anything techie, I didn't get too lost. And that's just a personal thing with sci-fi and anything super technologically advanced. I myself really struggle with picturing any of that stuff, so she does a pretty good job at keeping me understanding what's going on. It feels like for most of this review, I just kept knocking it harder and harder, and I really think the only reason for that is that it had so much potential to be a really great story. I just personally didn't love the shift in direction. This by no means that I am going to write off Marie Lu. I have a lot of interest still in her other earlier series that I still haven't gotten to, and I still think she has the potential to be someone I really like. I just didn't particularly love the way this one was wrapped up, so I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. Now, if you haven't read the book, I am going to say goodbye to you now. Thank you for watching. I do briefly want to talk about some spoilers that really irked me. I was attempting to describe some other reasons why I didn't love certain elements of the plot, but I was getting way too close to spoilers, so if you haven't read it, I suggest you leave now. The first thing that I disliked the most of this story was the AI storyline. Listen, I love AI storylines. I love the kind of discussion that is always brought up when we discover and have artificial intelligence storylines, but I think that in this book, there was no place for it. It almost seems as if the AI storyline was maybe brought in to help kind of soften the blow towards Hideo's actions and choices. That's another thing I would like to discuss. I can't believe there are so little repercussions for Hideo's actions. He literally created a plot and a device that was going to take over the free will and choice of every single human being on Earth, and he gets house arrest. And then also Emika and the way she reacted to him, she just basically forgives him / doesn't really care about the fact that he basically was an evil mastermind and was about to take away everyone's choice and free will. I couldn't get over how she was just like, yeah, whatever, we have a difference of opinion. His choices were so huge, and I was expecting this epic battle of the wills and her kind of talking him down. Nothing happens. He goes to jail for a little bit. No, he goes to his very rich house and is stripped of his title of CEO. That's it for the little spoilery rant that I wanted to have. So thank you very much for watching. I do really appreciate it. If you at all want to continue this discussion about Wildcard in the comments, please leave your comments down below. Just be mindful of spoilers, put a spoiler warning, anything like that. I am quite disappointed in this one, but I would really like to hear other people's thoughts on it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!